Entonces voy a hablarles.
Ay, no. Pero ¿por qué se ve así? Así. No, ni siquiera sé si me escucho, no me escucho a mí misma. Muy difícil.
Hay dos micrófonos, ¿cierto?
Ay, Andreina no sabe llegar.
Pues sí, el auditorio del sótano. Yo, Andrés,
La última vez era Drácula.
cuando no lo usa si quiero.
¿Cómo se? Todos nos sentimos así, superados.
Sí, buenas, ¿qué tal? Esa distancia, muy buenas, ¿qué tal?
Muy buenas, ¿qué tal?
Empodérese. Y si
Cantemos, hagamos karaoke, Andreina, karaoke.
si ve que no lo usa, trate de no hacer.
Ah, no, profe, no. ¿Dónde lo pago? Listo.
Ahora paremos porque son baterías. Hola. ¿Sí se escucha?
Hello.
Eso queda en YouTube, ahora los vienen en regiones, ahora, en ese en vivo. Después, Okay, so welcome everybody, welcome aboard. This is not the flight 777. Well, it's a flight of knowledge. So we are going to travel back to the 19th century, to the Victorian age. The Victorian age officially starts in 1837 and ends in 1901, exactly 64 years in which Queen Victoria was the Queen of England. Queen Victoria had 8 children, so at that time the maximum ideal of womanhood was being a mother. Women were invisible, and as well as they were invisible in history in this period, they were invisible in novels. It's quite a controversial time in which there are lots of issues such as Jack the Ripper. Maybe you have heard about Jack the Ripper, Jack el Destripador. Okay, this is part of this age. So today we are going to present the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, presented by 6 students. One is in the audience. It's a hidden one. You will find out who he is. They present the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So I would like to introduce them. They are in the 8th semester of the translation program, so they are on the verge to graduate. So from my left here we have, would you like to introduce yourself? I guess everybody better introduce yourself.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Andreina, and
I'm Lady, and I'm not doing my 8th semester. I'm doing my 6th semester.
My name is Laura.
My name is Danny.
And my name is Juliana. Welcome, everyone.
So she's the only one, I mean the rest are on the 8th semester, okay, in the 8th semester. So let's get started. At the end of the reading aloud, they have prepared questions. So it is very important that you pay attention in order to answer the question you will be asked. Okay, thanks very much indeed, and enjoy our presentation.
okay, so we are going to, the order of the day is I'm going to give an introduction or contextualization, and my classmates are going to read some parts of the book. So let's start. So the author, about the author, Robert Louis Stevenson. He was born 1850-1894. So he was Scottish. He was novelist, poet, essayist, musician, and travel writer. About his parents, Thomas Stevenson, he was a designer, an engineer. He was very important because he was a pioneering Scottish lighthouse designer, and his mother, Margaret Isabella. And about his wife was Fanny Osborne. So the most famous work of Robert was Treasure Island, written 1883, a child's garden of verses. It was a collection of poems for children. It was written in 1885. Another word was kidnapped, and the word that we are going to talk today is the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So Robert Louis Stevenson now ranks as the 26th most translated author in the world. Okay, and this author, Chesterton, he said that Stevenson seemed to pick the right word up on the point of his pen, like a man playing spirikins. So as the professor said, it was a Victorian era, so we are at that time, and here we have the Queen Victoria's reign As the professor said, it was a reign about 64, 63 years of reign. At that time, it was the law about homosexuality. So this law and any sexual practice between men or some anal sex was a crime. So there were a kind of range of sentences like fines, prison, and death penalty, even life in prison. So what happened with this law at that time? The law affected all the social sectors, and in the Victorian era, several scandals broke out. So there were well-known characters involved. One of them that was involved was Oscar Wilde. So let's go to talk about the book, Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Something author said, it is about, so the principal story, it was about a London lawyer named Gabriel John Utterson, who investigates strange occurrences between his old friend, Dr. Henry Jekyll, and the evil Edward Hyde. But how Stevenson wrote this story of what happened, how this started. The beginning was a dream. So his wife said, in the small hours of one morning, I was awakened by cries of horror from Louis. His wife said, thinking he had a nightmare, I awake him. He said, Henry, why did you wake me? I was dreaming a fine bogey tale. So this story comes to Stevenson in a dream, and Stevenson had long been fascinated with split personalities, but couldn't figure out how to write about them. And when he dreamed this, he wrote a chapter on dreams. But it is important, the influence. So he was inspired by Deacon Brodie. Who was him? He was a cabinet maker named Deacon Brodie. He was a town consider and craftsman. He was a successful craftsman. So what happened then? Despite this story, so the story was about Brodie gave him access to keys to the rich and famous. So Brodie made copies of these keys to rob them, the rich people, at night. So this man was eventually caught and hanged. So the influence started. Stevenson was interested, and the people at the time was fascinated with this story. Despite this story happened 60 years before that Stevenson was born, it was the principal influence to write Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It is something that Stevenson told to an interviewer. He said, being pressed into a cabinet when he swallowed a drug and charged into another being. So how the days of he wrote this story in a matter of days. After he dreamed this, he wrote the first draft in 3 and 6 days flat. So it was so quickly the writing of him, and then he rewritten the draft in 3 days. And it said that he wrote 30,000 works. Despite he was sick because Stevenson suffered of tuberculosis and a long hemorrhage. So it is a fact that some people said Stevenson may have been on cocaine when he wrote it. May have been. So it's been reported that he was prescribed medicinal cocaine to treat his hemorrhage and tuberculosis. So the affection for the drug and his crazy greeting, a man faced with financial problems, and his own mortality. So that's why in the book, as my classmates will explain, Jekyll takes a drug from a chemist that turns him into another person. So the similarity is that Dick Body, as I explained before, he robs at night, he had the keys at night. So there is a similarity with Jekyll that he turns at night to do bad things. There is also a story that the first trap was destroyed. So the wife told this: I nearly fainted away with misery and horror when I saw all was gone. So Fanny, the wife, told this, that the drug was burning in flames. But there is another story about Fanny wrote a letter to a friend. Fortunately, he has forgotten all about it now, and I shall burn it after I show it to you. He said it was his greatest work. So we don't know who burns the first trap. There is a story about the wife and even the son of the. And despite this draft that was destroyed, Stevenson spent about 6 weeks revising the book before. So let's go to talk about the success of this book. So there were about 40,000 copies sold in 6 months. So we can see that it was a great, successful book. Within a year, there was a play based on the book. There were productions in Scotland and in the United States. Also, there were cartoon adaptations, Mighty Mouse and Bugs Bunny. And Stanley said that the book of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde inspired the Incredible Hulk. About this success, so the population was fascinated and people seized on the moral message of the story about morality. Also, preachers gave sermons about it in churches. That's it about like the contextualization. So we can see that the story about Fanny, about the trap that was destroyed, it is about what the teacher said. The woman was invisible, so there is not a great importance for women at that time. And in this book, the most important characters, all of them are men. They're not women, only like 2 women in the book, but they are not important. So my classmate lady, she's going to read the first part, like an introduction of the book.
Okay. Please. Chapter 1. Reading aloud. So, please, attention, and you can read the story with me. We have the slides. Mr. Enfield and the lawyer were on the other side of the by street, but when they came abreast of the entry, the former lifted up his cane and pointed. "Did you ever remark that door?" he asked, and when his companion had replied in the affirmative, "It is connected in my mind," added he, with a very odd story. "Indeed?" said Mr. Utterson, with a slight change of voice. And what was that? Well, it was this way, returned Mr. Enfield. I was coming home from some place at the end of the world, about 3 o'clock of a blank winter morning, and my way lay through a part of town where there was literally nothing to be seen but lamps. Street after street, and all the folks asleep, street after street of all lit up as if for a procession, and all as empty as a church. Till at last I got into that state of mind when a man listens and listens and begins to long for the sight of a policeman. All at once I saw 2 figures. One a little man who was stamping a lot his word at a good work, and the other a girl of maybe 8 or 10 who was running as hard as she was able down across the street. Well, sir, the 2 ran into one another naturally enough at the corner, and they came the horrible part of the thing. For the man trampled carefully over the child's body and left her screaming on the ground. It sounds nothing to hear, but it was jealous to see. It wasn't like a man. It was like some damn juggernaut. I gave a few hollow, took to my heels. Carter, my gentleman, I brought him back to where there was already quite a group about the screaming child. He was perfectly cool and made no resistance, but gave me one look so ugly that it brought out the sweat on me like running. The people who had turned out were the girl's own family, and pretty soon the doctor, for whom she had been sent, put in his appearance. Well, the child was not much the worse, more frightened, according to the servants, and the there you might have supposed would be an end to it. But there was one curious circumstance. I had taken a looking to my gentleman at first sight. So had the child's family, which was only natural. But the doctor's case was that struck me. He was the usual cut and dry apothecary of no particular age and color, with a strong Edinburgh accent and about as emotional as a bagpipe. Well, sir, he was like the rest of us. Every time he looked at my prisoner, I was that servants turned sick and white with desire to kill him. I knew that was in his mind, just he knew that was in mine. And killing being out of the question, we did the next best. We told the man we could and would make such a scandal out of this as should make his name stink from one end of London to the other. If he had any friends or any credit, we understood that they should lose them. And all the time, as we were pitching in red hot, we were keeping the women off him as best we could, for they were as wild as harpies. I never saw a cycle of such hateful faces. And there was the man in the middle, with a kind of black sneering coolness, frightened too. I could see that, but carried off, sir, really, like Satan. If you choose to make capital out of this accident, say he, I'm naturally helpless. No gentleman, but wishes to avoid a sin, says he. Name your figure. Well, we ascribe him up to £100 for the child's family. He would have clearly liked to speak out, but there was something about the lot of us that meant mischief, and the last he struck. The next thing was to get the money. And where do you think he carried us but to that place with the dog? Whipped out a key, went in, and presently came back with the matter of £10 in gold and a check for the balance of coats, drawn payable to bearer, and signed with a name that I can't mention, though it's one of the points of my story. But it was a name at least very well known and often printing. The figure was stiff, but the signature was good for more than that if it was only genuine. I took the liberty of pointing out to my gentleman that the whole business looked hypocritical and that man does not, in real life, walk into a cellar door at 4 in the morning and come out with another man's check for close upon £100. But he was quite easy and sneering. Said, "You mind at the rest," says he. "I will stay with you till the banks open and cash the check myself." So we all set off, the doctor and the child's father, and our friend and myself, and passed the rest of the night in my chambers. And next day, when he had breakfasted, went in a body to the bank. I gave him the check myself and said, "I have every reason to believe it was forgery. Not a bit of it. The check was genuine."
Okay, now we're going to read a fragment of chapter 8 it's called The Last Night. And at this point in the story, Mr. Hyde is wanted for the authorities because he has committed a lot of crimes. And Dr. Jekyll is like with a lot of strange attitude, and he's locked in his cabinet. So the servants, his servants, are worried about him. So we are going to read a fragment of this chapter.
Okay. The hall, when they entered it, was barely lit up. The fire was built high, and about the hearth the whole of the servants, men and women, stood huddled together like a flock of sheep. At the sight of Mr. Utterson, the housemaid broke into hysterical whimpering, and the cook, crying out, "Bless God, it's Mr. Utterson," ran forward as if to take him in her arms. What are you all here?" said the lawyer previously. "Very irregular, very unseemly. Your master will be far from pleased." "They are all afraid," said Poole. Blank silence followed, no one protesting. Only the maid lifted her voice and now wept loudly. "Hold your tongue," Poole said to her, with a ferocity of accent that testified to his own jangled nerves, and indeed, when the girl had so suddenly raised the note of her lamentation, they had all started and turned towards the inner door with faces of dreadful expectation. "And now," continued the butler, addressing the night boy, "reach me a candle, and we get this through hands at once." And then he begged Mr. Utterson to follow him, and led the way to the back garden. "Now, sir," said he, "you come as gently as you can. I want you to hear, and I don't want you to be heard. And see here, sir, if by any chance he was to ask you in, don't go." Mr. Utterson's nerves, at this unlooked for termination, gave a jerk that nearly threw him from his balance. But he recollected his courage and followed the butler into a laboratory building through the surgical theater, with its lumber of crates and bottles, to the foot of the stair. Here Paul motioned him to stand on the side and listen, while he himself set out the candle and, making a great and obvious call on his resolution, mounted the steps and knocked with a somewhat uncertain hand on the lower base of the cabinet door. "Mr. Utterson, sir, asking to see you," he called, and even as he did so, once more violently signed to the lawyer to give ear. A voice answered from within. "Tell him I cannot see anyone," it said complainingly. "Thank you, sir," said Paul, with a note of something like triumph in his voice. And taking up his candle, he led Mr. Utterson back across the yard and into the great kitchen, where the fire was out and the beetles were leaping on the floor. "Sir," he said, looking Mr. Utterson in the eyes, "was that my master's voice?" "It seems much changed," replied the lawyer, very pale, but giving look for look. "Changed? Well, yes, I think so," said the butler. "Have I been 20 years in this man's house to be deceived about his voice? No, sir. Master's made away with. He was made away with 8 days ago, when we heard him cry out upon the name of God. And who's in there instead of him? And what it says there, it is a thing that cries to heaven, Mr. Utterson."
This is a very strange tale, Paul. This is rather a wild tale, my man, said Mr. Utterson, biting his finger. Suppose it were as you suppose, supposing Dr. Jekyll to have been, well, murdered, what could induce the murderer to stay? That won't hold water. It doesn't commend itself to reason. Well, Mr. Utterson, you are a hard man to satisfy, but I'll do it yet, said Poole. All this last week, you must know, him or it, whatever it is that lives in that cabinet, has been crying night and day for some sort of medicine and cannot get it to his mind. It was sometimes his way, the master's, that is, to write his orders on a sheet of paper and throw it on the stair. We've had nothing else this week back, nothing but papers and a closed door. And the very meals left there to be smuggled in when nobody was looking. Well, sir, every day, aye, and twice and thrice in the same day, there have been orders and complaints, and I have been sent flying to all the wholesale chemists in town. Every time I brought the stuff back, there would be another paper telling me to return it because it was not pure, and another order to a different firm. This drug is wanted bitter bad, sir, whatever for. Have you any of these papers? Asked Mr. Utterson. Poole felt in his pocket and handed out a crumpled note, which the lawyer, bending nearer to the candle, carefully examined. Its contents ran thus. Dr. Jekyll presents his compliments to Messrs. Moe. He assures them that their last sample is impure and quite useless for his present purpose. In the year 18 blank, Dr. J purchased a somewhat large quantity from Messrs. M. He now begs them to search with most sedulous care, and should any of the same quality be left, forward it to him at once. Expense is no consideration. The importance of this to Dr. J can hardly be exaggerated. So far, the letter had run composedly enough, but here, with a sudden splutter of the pen, the writer's emotion had broken loose. For God's sake, he added, find me some of the old. This is a strange note, said Mr. Utterson, and then sharply, how do you come to have it open? The man at most was made angry, sir, and he threw it back to me like so much dirt, returned Poole. This is unquestionably the doctor's hand, do you know? Resumed the lawyer. I thought it looked like it, said the servant rather sulkily. And then, with another voice, "But what matters, hand of right?" he said. "I've seen him." "Seen him," repeated Mr. Utterson. "Well?"
"That's it," said Poole. "It was this way. I came suddenly into the theater from the garden. It seems he had slipped out to look for this drug or whatever it is. For the cabinet door was open, and there he was at the far end of the room digging among the crates. He looked up when I came in, gave a kind of cry, and went upstairs into the cabinet. It was but for 1 minute that I saw him, but the hair stood upon my head like quills. Sir, if that was my master, why had he a mask upon his face? If it was my master, why did he cry out like a rat and run from me? I have served him long enough." And then the man paused and passed his hand over his face. "These are all very strange circumstances," said Mr. Utterson, "but I think I begin to see daylight. Your master, Poole, is plainly seized with one of those maladies that both torture and deform the sufferer. Hence, for aught I know, the alteration of his voice. Hence, the mask and the avoidance of his friends. Hence, his eagerness to find this drug, by means of which the poor soul retains some hope of ultimate recovery. God grant that he be not deceived. There is my explanation. It is enough, Poole, and appalling to consider, but it is plain and natural, hangs well together, and delivers us from all exorbitant alarms." "Sir," said the butler, turning to a sort of mottled pallor, "that thing was not my master, and there's the truth. My master," here he looked round him and began to whisper, "is a tall, fine build of a man, and this was more of a dwarf." Utterson attempted to protest. "Oh, sir," cried Poole, "do you think I do not know my master after 20 years? Do you think I do not know where his head comes to in the cabinet door, where I saw him every morning of my life? No, sir, that thing in the mask was never Dr. Jekyll. God knows what it was, but it was never Dr. Jekyll, and it is the belief of my heart that there was murder done." "Poole," replied the lawyer, "if you say that, it will become my duty to make certain. Much as I desire to spare your master's feelings, much as I am puzzled by this note which seems to tell him to be still alive, I shall consider it my duty to break in that door." "Ah, Mr. Utterson, that's talking," cried the butler. "And now comes the second question," resumed Utterson. "Who is going to do it?" "Why, you and me, sir," was the undoubted reply.
"That's very well said," returned the lawyer. "And whatever comes of it, I shall make it my business to see you are no loser." "There is an axe in the theater," continued Poole, "and you might take the kitchen poker for yourself." The lawyer took that rude but weighty instrument into his hand and balanced it. "Do you know, Poole," he said, looking up, "that you and I are about to place ourselves in a position of some peril?" "You may say so, sir, indeed," returned the butler. "It is well, then, that we should be frank," said the other. "We both think more than we have said. Let us make a clean breast. This masked figure that you saw, did you recognize it?" "Well, sir, it went so quick, and the creature was so doubled up that I could hardly swear to that," was the answer. "But if you mean, was it Mr. Hyde?" "Why, yes, I think it was. You see, it was much of the same bigness, and it had the same creak, lightweight with it. And then who else could have gotten in by the laboratory door? You have not forgot, sir, that at the time of the murder he had still the key with him? But that's not all. I don't know, Mr. Utterson, if you ever met this Mr. Hyde?" "Yes," said the lawyer. "I once spoke with him." "Then you must know, as well as the rest of us, that there was something queer about that gentleman.
something that gave a man a turn. I don't know rightly how to say it, sir, beyond this, that you felt in your marrow kind of cold and thin. I own I felt something of what you describe, said Mr. Utterson. Quite so, sir, returned Poole. Well, when that masked thing like a monkey jumped from among the chemicals and whipped into the cabinet, it went down my spine like ice. Oh, I know it's not evidence, Mr. Utterson, and book-learned enough for that, but a man has his feelings, and I give you my Bible word, it was Mr. Hyde. Aye, said the lawyer. My fears incline to the same point. Evil, I fear, founded, evil was sure to come of that connection. Aye, truly, I believe you. I believe poor Harry is killed, and I believe his murderer, for what purpose God alone can tell, is still lurking in his victim's room. Well, let our name be vengeance, called Bradshaw.
The footman came at the summons, very white and nervous. Put yourself together, Bradshaw, said the lawyer. This suspense, I know, is telling upon all of you, but it is now our intention to make an end of it. Paul here and I are going to force our way into the cabinet. If all is well, my shoulders are broad enough to bear the blame. Meanwhile, lest anything should really be amiss, or any malefactor seek to escape by the back, you and the boy must go around the corner with a pair of good sticks and take your post at the laboratory door. We give you 10 minutes to get to your stations. As Bradshaw left, the lawyer looked at his watch. And now, Poole, let us get to ours, he said, and taking the poker under his arm, led the way into the yard. The scoop had banked over the moon, and it was now quite dark. The wind, which only broke in puffs and draughts into that deep well of building, tossed the light of the candle to and fro about their steps, until they came into the shelter of the theatre, where they sat down silently to wait. London hummed solemnly all around, but near at hand the stillness was only broken by the sounds of footfall moving to and fro along the cabinet floor. So it will walk all day, sir, whispered Poole. Aye, and the better part of the night. Only when a new sample comes from the chemist, there is a bit of a break. Ah, it's an ill conscience that's such an enemy to rest. Ah, sir, there's blood fully shed in every step of it. But hark again, a little closer, put your heart in your ears, Mr. Utterson, and tell me, is that the doctor's foot? The steps fell lightly and oddly, with a certain swing, for all they went so slowly, it was a different indeed from the heavy creaking tread of Henry Jekyll. Utterson said, "Is there never anything else?" he asked. Poole nodded. Once, he said, "Wise, I heard it weeping." "Weeping? How that?" said the lawyer, conscious of a sudden chill of horror. "Weeping like a woman or a lost soul," said the butler. "I came away with that upon my heart, that I could have wept too."
But now the 10 minutes drew to an end. Paul disinterred the axe from under a stack of packing straw. The candle was set up on the nearest table to light them to the attack, and they drew near with bated breath to where that patient foot was still going up and down in the quiet of the night. "Jekyll," cried Utterson with a loud voice, "I demand to see you." He paused a moment, but there came no reply. "I give you fair warning. Our suspicions are aroused, and I must and shall see you." He resumed, "If not by fair means, then by foul. If not of your consent, then by brute force." "Utterson," said the voice, "for God's sake, have mercy." "Ah, That's not Jekyll's voice, it's Hyde's, cried Utterson. Down with the door, Poole. Poole swung the axe over his shoulder. The blow shook the building, and the red baize door leaped against the lock and hinges. A dismal screech, as of mere animal terror, rang from the cabinet. Up went the axe again, and again the panels crashed, and the frame bounded. 4 times the blow fell, but the wood was tough, and the fittings were of excellent workmanship. And it was not until the 5th that the lock burst and the wreck of the door fell inwards on the carpet. The besiegers, appalled by their own riot and the stillness that has succeeded, stood back a little and peered in. There lay the cabinet before their eyes in the quiet lamplight, a good fire glowing and chattering on the hearth, the kettle singing its thin strain, a drawer or two open, papers neatly set forth on the business table, and nearer the fire, the things laid out for tea. The quietest room, you would have said, and, but for the glazed presses full of chemicals, the most commonplace that night in London. Right in the middle, there lay the body of a man sorely contorted and still twitching. They drew near on tiptoe, turned it on its back, and beheld the face of Edward Hyde. He was dressed in clothes far too large for him, clothes of the doctor's bigness. The cords of his face still moved with a semblance of life, but life was quite gone. And by the crushed feel in the hand and the strong smell of kernels that hung upon the air, Utterson knew that he was looking on the body of a self-destroyer. "We have come too late," he said sternly, "whether to save or punish. Hyde is gone to his account, and it only remains for us to find the body of your master."
Okay, I'm gonna read the last chapter. It's not, well, this chapter is the largest of the book. It's the last one. Is what? Doesn't work. Okay. I'm gonna read the last chapter. Is the confession that Mr. Jekyll does before what happened in the chapter that my classmate had read. It's not like a full story like they have read. There's fragments from different parts of the chapter for you to know a little more about the story, okay? I was born in the year 18 blank to a large fortune, endowed besides with excellent parts, inclined by nature to industry, fond of the respect of the wise and good among my fellowmen, and thus, as might have been supposed, with every guarantee of an honorable and distinguished future. And indeed, the worst of my faults was a certain impatient gaiety of disposition, such as has made the happiness of many, but such as I found it hard to reconcile with my imperious desire to carry my head high, and wear a more than commonly great countenance before the public. Hence it came about that I concealed my pleasures, and that when I reached years of reflection and began to look around me, and began to look around me and take stock of my progress and position in the world, I stood already committed to a profound duplicity of me, which every day, and from both sides of my intelligence, the moral and the intellectual, I thus drew steadily nearer to that truth, by whose partial discovery I had been doomed to such a dreadful shipwreck, that a man is not truly one, but truly two.
I was so far in my reflections when, as I had said, a sidelight began to shine upon the subject from the laboratory table. I began to perceive more deeply than it was ever yet been stated, the trembling immateriality, the mist-like presence of the seemingly so solid body in which we walk attired. Certain agents I found to have the power to shake and pluck back that fleshly vestment, even as a wind might toss the curtains of a pavilion. Enough then that I not only recognized my natural body from the mere aura and effulgence of certain powers that made up my spirit, but managed to compound a drug by which these powers should be dethroned from their supremacy, and a second form and content substitute, none the less natural to me because they were the expression and bore the stamp of the lower elements in my soul. I hesitated long before I put this theory to test of practice. But the temptation of a discovery so singular and profound at last overcame the suggestions of alarm. I had long since prepared my tincture. I purchased at once, from a fear of wholesale chemists, a large quantity of a particular salt which I knew from my experiments to be the last ingredient required. And late, one accursed night, I compound the elements, watch them boil and smoke together in the glass, and when the ebullition had subsided, with a strong glow of courage, drank off the potion. The most racking pang succeeded, a grinding in the bones, deadly nausea, and a horror of the spirit that cannot be exceeded at the last hour of birth or death. Then these agonies began to swiftly to subside, and I came to myself as if I were a great sickness. There was something strange in my sensations, something indescribably new, and from its very novelty, incredibly sweet. I felt younger, lighter, happier in body, when I was conscious of a heady recklessness, a current of disordered sensual images running like a mill race in my fancy, a solution of the bond of obligations, an unknown but not an innocent freedom of the soul. I knew myself, at the first breath of this new life, to be more wicked, tenfold more wicked, sold a slave of my original evil, and the thought, in that moment, braced and delighted me like wine. I stretched out my hands, exulting in a freshness of these sensations, and in the act, I was suddenly aware that I had lost in stature. There was no mirror at that day in my room. That which stands beside me as I write was brought later on, and for the very purposes of these transformations. The night, however, was far gone into the morning. The morning, black as it was nearly reaped for the conception of the day. The inmates in my house were locked in the most rigorous hours of slumber, and I determined, flushed as I was with hope and triumph, to venture in my new shape as far as to my bedroom. I crossed the yard, wherein the constellation looked down upon me. I could have thought, with wonder, the first creature of that sort that their unsleeping vigilance had yet disclosed to them. I stole through the corridors, a stranger in my own house, and coming to my room, I saw for the first time the appearance of Erohai. The drug has no discriminating action. It was neither diabolical nor divine. It would shock the doors of the prison house of my disposition, unlike the captives of Philippi, that which stood with Ramford. At that time my virtue slumbered, my evil, kept awake by ambition, was alert and swift to seize the occasion, and the thing that was more projected was ever hide. Hence, although I had now two characters as well as two appearances, one was wholly evil, and the other was still the old Henry Jekyll. The pleasures which I made haste to seek in my disguise were, as I have said, undignified. I will scarce use a harder term, for in the hands of error high, they soon began to turn toward the monstrous. When I would come back from these excursions, I was often plunged into a kind of wonder at my vicarious depravity. This familiar that I call out of my own soul and set forth alone to do his good pleasure was a being inherently malign and villainous, his every act and thought centered on self, drinking pleasure with vessel avidity from any degree of torture to another, relentless like a man of stone. Harry Jekyll stood at times against before the acts of error high, but the situation was apart from ordinary laws, and insidious relaxed the grasp of conscience. It was Hyde, after all, and Hyde alone, that was guilty. Jekyll was no worse. He woke again to his good qualities seemingly unimpaired. He will even make haste, where it was possible, to undo the evil done by Hyde, and thus his conscience slumbered. At all hours of the day and night, I will be taken with premonitory shudder above all. If I sleep, or even doze for a moment in my chair, it was always as high that I awakened. Under the strains of this continually impending doom, and by the sleeplessness to which I now condemn myself, even beyond what I had thought possible to a man, I became, in my own person, a creature eaten up by and emptied by fever, languidly weak, both in body and mind, and solely occupied by one thought, the horror of my other self. But when I slept, or when the virtue of the medicine wore off, I would live almost without transitions, for the pangs and transformation grew daily less marked, into the possession of a fancy brimming with images of terror, a soul boiling with causeless hatred, and a body that seemed not strong enough to contain the raging energies of life. The powers of Hyde seem to have grown with the sickliness of Jekyll. About a week has passed, and I am now finishing the statement under the influence of the last of the old powders. This, then, is the last time, short of a miracle, that Henry Jekyll can think his own thoughts or see his own face, now how sadly altered, in the glass. Nor must I delay too long to bring my writing to an end, for if my narrative has hitherto escaped destruction, it has been by a combination of great prudence and great good luck. Should the throes of change take me in an act of writing it, I will tear it into pieces, but if some time shall have lapsed after I have laid it by, his wondrous selfishness and circumscription to the moment will probably save it once again from the action of his ape-like spite. And indeed, the doom that is closing on us both has already changed and crushed him. Half an hour from now, when I shall again and forever re-endure that hate personality, I know how I shall sit shuddering and weeping in my chair, or continue with the most strained and fear-struck ecstasy of listening to pace up and down this room, my last earthly refuge, and give ear to every sound of menace. Will Hyde die upon this scaffold, or will he find courage to release himself at the last moment? God knows, I'm careless. This is my true hour of death, and what is to follow concern another than myself. Here then, as I lay down the pen and proceed to sell out my confession, I bring the life of that unhappy Harry Jekyll to an end.
So now it's your part. They have prepared some questions in order to go through the part that they have just read. By the way, did you understand what happened in the novel? Who wants to talk? ¿Qué pasó en la novela? ¿Quién lo entendió? Vamos a dar unos tips en español para que luego se pongan las pilas aquí, ¿ok? Dr. Jekyll y Mr. Hyde, la misma persona que se transforma en base a una pócima, ¿ok? Recuerden que el autor puede haber estado tomando cocaína, pero no como lo pensamos el día de hoy. La cocaína tenía ciertas, ciertos beneficios terapéuticos, sobre todo porque él tuvo una hemorragia y sufría de varias cosas, entre las cuales tuberculosis. Okay, entonces, al final, cuando él desdobla las dos partes, tenemos al Dr. Jekyll, que es un doctor de la academia, de la universidad, de buena familia, de clase alta. La diferencia de clase es el tema principal de la edad victoriana. Y por el otro lado, a través de esta pócima, tenemos a Mr. Hyde, todo lo contrario, repugnante, que se dedicaba a vivir la noche teniendo placeres prohibidos, y ahí vamos a ver cuáles son. Cometió crímenes. Entonces esa dualidad que a través de esta novela tiene que ser la dualidad del ser humano, no solo del siglo XIX. Evidentemente Stevenson lo representa de forma extrema. Okay, entonces al final, ¿qué sucede para salir de esta dualidad que va a ser el Dr. Jekyll? Vamos a retomar la última parte. Okay. Alguien que me lea la última parte. Solo leer, no ponemos notas. Listo. Vamos a leer desde, I am careless, las últimas 3 líneas.
I am careless. This is my true hour of death, and what is to follow concerns another than myself. Here, then, as I lay down the pen and proceed to seal out my confession, I bring the life of that unhappy Henry Jekyll to an end.
¿Qué sucede entonces?
Se mató.
Sí, se mata. Pues que él pues se mata.
Ok, que como la parte, el experimento era demostrarle a la comunidad académica que se podía desdoblar el ser humano. Pero aunque él no tome más la pócima, en la parte mala le vence a la parte buena. Entonces está fuera de control y le queda únicamente que suicidarse. This is his last will, como las últimas voluntades, y llega al suicidio. Vamos a ver ahora en inglés las preguntas que van a hacer los ponentes, y sería bueno que participaran ahora, ¿sí? ¿Me quedo con el micrófono?
Okay, yes. Do you hear me? No. Okay, so I have some questions related to the fragments that we have just read, so I would like you to answer them, or to try and answer. So, the first one, Stevenson suffered from, this is from the beginning, Stevenson suffered from A, thrombosis, D, cancer, C, brain tumors, or D, tuberculosis.
D.
Tuberculosis.
D. Tuberculosis.
D, tuberculosis. Andreina, can you show us? Yes.
Well done, Japan. What's your name?
Sarah.
Thank you very much indeed. We have foreign teacher here working with us. I would like to introduce Mr. Jos from the Netherlands. Do you know where the Netherlands is? Hollanda, the Netherlands, okay? So, before going through, would you like to give your feedback about this novel, what you know, what you knew, what you think of, something just in order to go through the subject?
Okay, I did not read the novel, but I'm going to because it sounds really interesting. So yeah, at least from that last page, I also thought it was a suicide ending, kind of. But I was thinking, I don't know if you guys know that why he says he killed Dr. Jekyll and not Hyde, because it seemed like he was angry at the other guy inside him or something when he uses the drugs. So it was very weird to me that in the end he says, I'm going to kill the unhappy Dr. Hyde, because he was unhappy, but not sort of the evil other character.
Yes, I mean, in that part, he says that he's killing Henry Jekyll more like because he's not gonna wake up again. He's gonna be Mr. Hyde from that moment on. So he's not killing himself like in life, but to replace himself with Dr. Hyde for the rest of the time. Mr. Hyde for the rest of the time.
So he's not dead? Like
in
his
that
body
part,
is
no,
not dead?
when he finishes there, he's not actually dead.
Okay.
It's that personality that's dead.
All right.
Okay. Who else? What is the title of the Stevenson's 1885 collection of children's poems? A. Child's Garden of Adventure. B. Child's Garden of Verses. C. Child's Garden of Delights. And D. Child's Garden of Make-Believe.
So if you are paying attention at the beginning, if you paid attention at the beginning of the presentation, who wants to say it?
So I think the answer could be B, Child's Garden of Birds.
I mean, it's poems. Your last word. Yeah.
What's your name?
Daniel. And I told you when I started. I'm studying math.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go with the next.
Okay, who tells the first story about Mr. Hyde to Mr. Utterson?
Can you please raise your hand? If you want to answer, raise your hand. I will pass you the mic.
A lawyer, B, Mr. Enfield, C, Dr. Hasty Lyon, and D, Mr. Guest.
A lawyer.
Lyon. Mr. Enfield, the man who told the story about the door at the beginning.
Who is the lawyer in the story? Who is the lawyer? Utterson. Utterson is the lawyer. Well done. Next.
Okay, next. It wasn't like a man. It was like some damn juggernaut. In this sentence, damn juggernaut refers to A heavy goods vehicle, B, an extremely nice person, C, someone destructive and unstoppable, or D, someone evil and malicious.
Who's got the answer? Sorry. Just raise your hand. Raise your hand. Here? Just, you're out of the game.
I think it's C, but more because that's what juggernaut means, not because I remember correctly from the story.
Yes. So what does it say?
C, yeah.
Yes.
But I cheated because juggernaut pretty much means destructive and unstoppable.
Okay. What makes Dr. Jekyll turn into Mr. Hyde? A drug.
Sarah again.
A disease.
Sarah absolutely eager.
D, a potion.
D, a potion. Okay, let's see. Yes, great. Thank you.
No, I didn't.
You spoiled the answer.
She was very attentive.
There is an axe in the theater, continued Pooh, and you might take the kitchen poker for yourself. Why did Pooh and the lawyer look for these tools? A, they wanted to kill Dr. Jekyll. B, they wanted to open the door of the cabinet to confront the supposedly murderer. C, they were thinking about killing Mr. Enfield. And D, they needed to arm the servants in case of a perilous confrontation.
So, raise your hand. Okay, over there.
Hi. I think it's B. They wanted to open the door of the cabinet to confront the supposedly murderer.
Let's see.
My name is Thomas. I study environmental engineering.
Okay, thank you. It was correct. According to the reading, how does Mr. Hyde die? Mr. Hyde. A. Because of the shock of the moment. B. He killed himself. C. The pull-out door fell on him. And D. Mr. Utterson hit him with an axe.
It's like Shining. Sarah again or someone else? For example, bank account?
No.
My name is Maria Fernanda.
Okay.
I think is B. He kills himself.
And the answer is B. Yes? Great. Okay. When does Mr. Utterson know for certain that the person in the room is really Mr. Hyde? A. When Mr. Poole describes him, the man he saw. B. When he sees the dead body. C. When he hears someone yelling while they are hitting the door. Or D. When he reads the note sent to the chemist. For certain.
Who wants to answer? Who wants to answer? Come on. Do you understand the meaning? Yes, Thomas again. Thomas had a restful sleep, same as Stevenson, so now you're very creative. That's why.
The answer is C. When he hears someone yelling while they are hitting the door.
Yes, that's the answer. Okay. The sentence, the most raking pang succeeding a grinding in the bones, deadly nausea, and a horror of the spirit that cannot be exceeded at the hour of birth or death, describes Dr. Jekyll's A. state of mind, B. painful transformation, C. symptoms due to the potion, and D. physical appearance.
Who wants to answer? Volunteers? Volunteer just again? With some feedback as well.
With some feedback. Okay. I think the painful transformation, because as I remember, after this, he changes into the other person, and he's not nauseous and all that. He's just kind of evil.
Yes. It's while he's turning into Mr. Hyde, so his whole body is changing, and I imagine it can be painful. Okay. And that's it. That was the last question.
We have another student here in the audience. Who is the other students? Veamos si adivinan quién es el estudiante disfrazado. Hay un profesor, que lo he dicho, pero hay también un estudiante, que es del grupo, del mismo combo. ¿Quién es? Quien gana va a tener una entrada gratis para el cine de mañana.
Is she in that chair? Yeah, it's her.
No.
No?
She's a student. Okay. Entonces, mañana paga mitad de precio. Him. Okay. 2 tickets for tomorrow. You can bring him as well. Fabio, you have questions about he's going to ask questions, so pay attention.
Yeah, I have a few questions. I really appreciate your participation because you make my day. I thought that everybody was going to participate, or that it was going to be hard for you to get a good compression reading, but then I can say that you did very well, and I thank you for that. I have a few questions that are related to these two the chapter 10 and the introduction. A question was at the first paragraph of the book. The question is, how much money did they ask for the girl's family? You remember when and you got how much they made him to pay for the family. You remember that? ¿Cuánto dinero le dieron a la familia por lo que le hicieron a la niña? You remember that? It was 100 pounds. 100 pounds, yeah. 100 libras esterlinas. But you remember too that he signed a check. He signed a check and they were waiting for the bank to open the next day in the morning. And what do you think? The check signature was a fake? The check signature was a fake? La firma era falsa, era el cheque. Todos ellos estaban pensando de que ese cheque, pero el cheque, la firma estaba buena, sí o no. Ellos fueron. And everybody gets surprised because the signature was genuine. It was fine.
Just wants to say something.
Yeah, what do you want to say?
Not necessarily, but they get the money. So if it is a fake signature, then it was a useful fake signature. Like it was a good fake, at least.
But this is a question that the professor mentioned before when he said that que realmente están seguros de que él no consumía cocaína. Con esta pregunta a mí me queda la duda también, because the question is, why did Dr. Jekyll write to Paul to return the drug? Pues porque él devolvió la droga que había solicitado al inicio. And he said that he returned the drug because it wasn't pure. O sea, porque la droga no era pura, entonces queda la duda como si una cuestión de la cocaína, si él... Because he wasn't... Exactly. But that's it. Thank you very much.
So, would you like to ask them something? Maybe about their experience by reading this book, or the sensation they have, something about the novel, whatever you want to ask. ¿Quieren preguntar algo? ¿Cómo se sintieron? ¿Qué pensamos? Podemos decirlo en castellano. Si quien quiere habla castellano y quien quiere habla inglés. ¿Cómo se sienten delante de una historia de este tipo? ¿La ven como ciencia ficción? Estamos en 1886, pero ahora estamos en 2018.
Quien quiere hablar inglés, habla inglés, ¿de acuerdo? Quien quiere lo dice en español.
I think that you can identify with Mr. Jekyll, because sometimes you are Mr. Hyde when you are angry or something, or, well, we are, first, we are animals, evolution animals, so we have instincts, and we need some ways to survive. I think Mr. Hyde is a part of Jekyll, but, bueno, en español. Yo, sí, yo creo que a veces uno como que reprime ciertos sentimientos que pues uno sabe que la sociedad lo ve mal o que de pronto no es moral, pero que igualmente uno de vez en cuando lo piensa, lo siente, y es como instintos animales que luego pues reprime la parte de la razón. Quería también preguntar algo a ellos, pues si ustedes que leyeron los libros pues no vieron como esa forma de ver la historia, o sea, de entenderla, de que a veces pues uno puede ser Mr. Jekyll o a veces puede ser el señor Hyde.
I mean, that's the point of the book. I mean, I see that as the point of the book, that it wants to show that we all have different parts, and sometimes those parts might be seen as evil, and sometimes they are the normal part, the person you are and the person when you are people, some way. And here comes that what Andreina said at the beginning, that there was a law about homosexuality in those times, that it was punished. So what they say is that maybe Mr. Hyde was an homosexual. So maybe that was the evil part of him, and that's why he took the potion, because he wanted to
justify
his homosexuality in that way. And maybe we don't see that as something evil now, so we don't have to say that that's the evil part of me. So maybe it changes with time and with every person, what is that evil part and what is that good part.
Okay, there's a part of the book which says that he needed, by being Mr. Hyde, he unleashed, como soltaba, unleashed certain appetites. ¿Sí? Como soltaba ciertos apetitos. Lo leemos hoy y pensamos, bueno, va con prostitutas, o se mete droga. Pero en la época hay esta cosa que es interesante, que es la ley contra la homosexualidad de 1885. En la que caerá Oscar Wilde, que vamos a leer en el próximo evento, y que entonces disfraza todo el contexto. Dr. Jekyll de día es respetable por la sociedad, es un médico de fama, de clase alta, y la diferencia de clase es el tema principal de la edad victoriana, y por la noche es otro personaje, también físicamente se transforma, no es más un hombre, digamos, a good looking man, es un hombre repugnante, muy cercano a lo que ellos en la novela comparan a un animal, a una fiera, y entre los crímenes están esos apetitos. Sí, que hoy día leemos de otra manera, pero el tema de la homosexualidad es un tema muy importante. I'm going to ask you something. What has this novel to do with your life? I will ask you, everybody, okay? ¿Qué tiene que ver esa novela con la vida de cada uno? Tenemos lados oscuros todos, no de esta forma, evidentemente, no que son muy extremos. Pero muchas veces decimos, no, yo esto no lo hago, yo esto jamás lo haré, jamás trabajaré en esto, jamás. Pero luego llega el momento, llega la ocasión y conocemos una parte de nosotros que estaba ahí. ¿Sí lo han pensado? Lo que hacemos porque estudio esto, porque lo quiero o porque mi familia quiere que estudie eso. Tengo este sentir sexual porque la sociedad me lo impone o porque yo realmente lo siento. Son muchas cosas. Piensen un momento y ahora me contestan. They are going to answer in English.
Of course. Well, I think the biggest thing that I take from the story that is really evident is what made Dr. Jekyll fall from the very first time he repressed all that he think was evil. So it's not like you have to repress all that you desire or you think that the society could make a judgment of you, but you have to try to have a balance with everything you do, everything you want to do, everything you make. So I think that's the most biggest part I take from the story.
I don't know if I believe that we have two faces to the coin. I don't know that I believe that. I believe that we are really bad. We have a natural bad things in our lives. And when you are a child, and when you were a child, you say many things and you do many things and you did many things, and your parents all time had to say, don't do it, all time, yes. So you can know the right things and you can know the bad things. Now, when I read the novel, I can think by myself. Some cases, yes, I'm evil, but but I don't have to take drugs or any potion, and I'm very conscious. My right part is very conscious that the bad part is doing something that is not very good. And what more? I want to say another thing, that some cases we have a mask, we put a mask, we use with people, but when we are alone, when we are in the mirror or in your bed with your pillow, you can be yourself, and you can think that if you are Mr. Hyde or if you are Dr. Jekyll. But in the final, you have to decide, and we have to think that the society, we are the society. Because some cases we say, no, the society say that this is bad, but who is the society? We are the society. So we are part of that discussion or that point of view. So, okay, I don't know.
Okay, I'm not going to describe you my Mr. Hyde, right? Because it's a secret, you cannot know. It would be very dangerous, so no. But I think it's related to our particular society. I mean, like this Colombian context, it's like a very religious culture, and that makes us like have a lot of that forces us to create like an image that has to fit in this particular place, because maybe you can find like other cities or other places where you can be a little more Mr. Hyde, but here it's really hard. So it's like I think the more repression is in a society, you find in a society, the more you have to to be like a fake person, because we all have like all these dark parts, and we have to hide it. But that depends on every society. It changes depending on the society.
Okay, so I think that, as Lady said, I don't need to take a potion to be Mr. Hyde, but as we talk at the classes with the professor, we have a Mr. Hyde inside always. So, for example, I could be Mr. Hyde normally and a student, but I could be a Mr. Hyde when I played volleyball or something like that. So we have a lot of characters, so we have a lot of personality. As my classmates said, it's the society that said it is evil or is the good or the right things that we have to do. So that's it.
Danny, would you like to say something about that? No?
My point is that even though Dr. Jekyll suffered for that condition of fighting with Mr. Hyde, then we can say that Dr. Jekyll loves a lot Mr. Hyde. Even though he gave him in his testament, but he loved him because en su testamento él le heredaba pues toda la fortuna y todo si él en algún momento desapareciera.
He takes care of him.
He takes care of him. And I believe that in some points in our lives we like to represent like or acting like Mr. Hyde. It's not a matter of moral.
That's good.
It's
It's
a
good
point
point.
where you
And
sometimes need and slits liberar parte de.
unlike Mr. Hyde, who doesn't care about Dr.
It
Jekyll.
gives you a little peace of mind or help you
That's a good point.
to
That's a good point.
to
So,
advance.
I would like you to think, each one of you, about an issue in your life, similar, well, in which you have shown a different part of your being, a different side, un hecho de vuestra vida, de su vida, en que salió una parte de ustedes que desconocían. Habrá salido, sí. Repito, quien quiera hablar en inglés, bien. Quien lo dice en castellano, también.
First, I would like to think to say something about I thought with this novel. I was wondering if nowadays someone can create a potion that can transform a man into another with physical effects. If it could be possible by science, I don't know, some chemicals here. It could be possible to create a potion.
Who study chemistry?
And that's the first point. And the other was I will say this in Spanish. Que, por ejemplo, la novela inspiró de pronto a Hulk. Era pues una especulación. Entonces pensar también en los otros personajes que se han inspirado en dos personalidades, como Gollum, Sméagol en El Señor de los Anillos, o se me ocurre de pronto una película que se llama Fragmentado, que es un tipo que tiene 23 personalidades. Entonces esas cosas también que son psicológicas, que una persona puede tener dos personalidades y en realidad hablar entre ellas, me parece muy...
Bueno, esto la psiquiatría lo clasifica como desorden mental. Sí, han leído el ¿cómo se llama? El ¿cómo se llama? DS5, ¿no? El manual de psiquiatría con todas las enfermedades. ¿Alguien lo ha leído? Todos estamos trastornados, todos, porque de todas formas allá es un gran negocio para darte las medicinas. No, hay trastorno, yo he leído trastorno de narcisismo, trastorno del lado oscuro, trastorno del mediodía, hay de todo.
And answering to your question, I think that I've been a different person when I get drunk.
But maybe because you unleash things that you have inside.
Yes.
That's what I mean.
And one,
do you agree?
One becomes wild and free.
Yo que fui por muchos años fui bailarín. Aquí me gustaba ir a bailar, luego tiré la toalla. Cuando le preguntaba a la gente, ¿vamos a bailar? Ah, no, pero estoy tomando medicina, no puedo. ¿Y qué tiene que ver? Porque no puedo tomar, ¿no? Entonces, el hecho de tomar para soltar esa parte. Bailan, sí, me tomo 4 guaros o 4 aguardientes, si no, no bailas. Entonces ahí está el tema de Dr. Jekyll y Mr. Hyde. No lo veamos tan extremo, veamos el tema de soltar unas cosas. Todos aquí tenemos algo, todos.
Yeah, I think I might help a little bit with the question you had about the chemistry that might exist in the present day with certain effects like this. That obviously not physical, but there are a lot of drugs where there's different character traits prescribed to different drugs. For example, cocaine would lead to more extroversion, more confidence, stuff like that, whereas MDMA would also lead to extroversion, but not definitely confidence, more of a hallucinative thing. So that you have a lot of drugs. There's a very big spectrum of different personalities you could... Or crack, which is a whole different, which is related to cocaine, yeah. But there's a very big spectrum.
And Josh, maybe you can describe them, the Dutch society. Josh is from the Netherlands. In the the Netherlands. If you understand how Colombia is, the Netherlands is completely the opposite side. Let's say dark side or
on drugs,
or the white
definitely.
side.
Yeah.
So as far as I know, I've been there once, but as far as I know, 44%, according to a statistics released in 2012, 44% of people are atheists. Lots of churches shut down. Cerraron muchas iglesias porque la gente no va. And they opened bookshop, hospitals, lots of stuff like that. Can you just please mention some... no hay perros callejeros, por ejemplo. O sea, hay mucha civilización y poca religión. Y además, si alguien ha ido a Ámsterdam, que es famosa por la parte de la zona roja, the red zone,
red light
donde
district.
está la prostitución, pero una prostitución muy de alto nivel, casi en vitrina, ¿no? En los coffee shops está la marihuana, se vende marihuana, pero en ciertas cantidades. Cómo lo viven ellos es muy diferente de cómo se puede vivir en otra parte del mundo, porque es como si uno va a tomar vino o aguardiente, sí te lo dan, pero hay un límite. Can you just describe something about
when we're talking about drugs, I would say the average Dutch person is more experienced than maybe the average Colombian, although I've been in Medellin for a while now and I know it's not necessarily like an abstinent place. I've been to some festivals and I've seen ecstasy and MDMA being used a lot. I would say it's less illegal and less taboo in the Netherlands or maybe Northern Europe. So for example, as you said, marijuana is legal and you can buy it in a coffee shop. And then most other drugs, but pretty much all other drugs are not explicitly illegal to use. They're illegal to make or to sell, but not explicitly illegal to use. So for example, if you go to a festival or you're walking in the street and you have some cocaine or you have ecstasy or MDMA or whatever else, the police could theoretically take it from you. I've never heard it happen, but they could do that. They cannot arrest you for any of that. They cannot arrest you for smoking weed in the street. They cannot arrest you they can arrest you for behavior that you show because of using any substance, but not for having the substance. Portugal has this more explicitly in the law. In Portugal, it's explicitly legal to have drugs until a certain amount. In the Netherlands, it's still officially illegal to have cocaine, but it's not illegal to use it as long as you do it privately or you don't bother anyone else.
Disculpa, yo quiero complementar algo a lo que está diciendo. Es que en la experiencia está la experiencia, por ejemplo, de los jamaicanos, que ellos también en su religión fuman la marihuana. Pues ellos no le han perdido el ritual a fumar marihuana, y uno se puede sentar a fumar marihuana con los jamaicanos desde las 9 de la mañana hasta las 4 de la tarde y no hay ningún tipo de problema represivo interno en uno que le haga pensar que porque está fumando marihuana todo el día entonces te va a afectar psicológica o te va a hacer perder el control mientras estás ahí en ese ambiente, en esa atmósfera. Yo por el contrario creo que en nuestra sociedad hay un problema fuerte con el uso de las drogas, porque casi que lo que ha afectado el consumo de las drogas es la manera como nos la han reprimido mentalmente y socialmente. Y ese tipo de represión nos hasta ha negado la posibilidad de uno experimentar y sentir realmente qué es consumir, digamos, por ejemplo, la marihuana o otro tipo de sustancia. Entonces lo está consumiendo, pero tener un represor interno que te opaca la posibilidad de experimentar algo. Y eso es lo que ha afectado más a nuestra sociedad. Porque si uno mira, por ejemplo, otro autor que es interesante leer es a Milán Kundera. Si uno ve el libro, si uno ve la película La insoportable levedad del ser, ahí sí que es una liberación total de las pasiones y del gozo y del placer. En otras palabras, a nosotros nos niega la posibilidad de un ethos cultural del placer, una especie de ética del placer, de gozo. Eso ha sido parte pues, de nuestro conflicto interno. Nuestra confrontación interna no es un problema de una dualidad nuestra, es un problema de cómo la sociedad nos ha condicionado a otras cosas.
Okay, so the event has come to an end. Before introducing them again, I would like to remind you to take a look at our program. Have you got this program? No? There are some programs here. This is the semester program. Si quieren seguir con esta línea, tenemos otros dos eventos. Uno será el 3 de mayo, aquí, a misma hora, será un jueves, y hablaremos de The Picture of Dorian Gray, el retrato de Dorian Gray, que es de la misma edad victoriana. Estamos siempre con los mismos temas. Será en inglés, con Reading Aloud. Tenemos un evento que es castellano-inglés el 20, viernes 20, lo tenemos en la biblioteca de la Escuela de Idiomas, sobre la dualidad y la transformación del personaje literario en la novela victoriana. Entonces hablaremos un poco en general de varias novelas, castellano-inglés. Mañana los invito al cine, aquí ya tenemos 2 ganadores que pueden venir gratuitamente, en cambio está en mitad de precio. Sara también va a venir. Ah, claro, claro. Entonces mañana tenemos una película del ciclo de cine que estamos llevando que se llama Language, Diversity and Society. Diversity entendemos diversidad cultural. Mañana una película del año 91, es una película del sur de Estados Unidos, se llama Fried Green Tomatoes. Tomates verdes fritos, ¿han oído? ¿La han visto? ¿No? Entonces es una película muy interesante. ¿Cómo funciona nuestro cineforum? Son normalmente hora y media, 2 de película, después la ocasión para conversar. Conversamos la hora después, o sea, de 4 a 5 conversamos sobre la película en inglés. O sea, no hablamos de cómo te llamas, dónde vives, hablamos de la película. Okay, entonces en la tercera película del semestre tendremos otra en mayo, siempre el primer viernes del mes. Entonces, de momento invitarlos a estos eventos y que sigan nuestra programación aquí en el plegable. También pueden seguirlo en la página de la Escuela de Idiomas de la Universidad de Antioquia. Hay una página que tenemos que se llama PIFLE, Programa Institucional Formación en Lengua Extranjera, donde aparecen todas las actividades. ¿Quiere decir algo? No, se está estirando, ya no puedo más. Ok, entonces vamos a presentarlos una vez más y le vamos a dar un fuerte aplauso a cada uno cuando se presente. No, bueno, todo final entonces, pero van a decir nombre, apellido, antes dije no solo el nombre, apellido, programa que estudian y semestre en que están.
Okay, my name is Juliana Vázquez, and I'm in 8th semester of translation. Thank you for coming.
Okay, I am Dani Restrepo. I am also in the 8th semester of translation, and thanks for your attention.
My name is Laura Inao. I'm also from translation. This is my last semester, and I hope you enjoy the presentation.
I'm Lady Gomez. I'm now doing the 8th semester, so I'm in the 6th semester and I'm doing translation as well.
Okay, and I am Andreina Monar. I am in the last semester, and I hope that you have enjoyed this book.
Okay, see you tomorrow, see you soon. Thank you very much indeed. If you need the leaflet, the pamphlet, it's here. Thank you very much. Have a very good day.